talking about all things AI and operations. I'll kind of peek into finances, kind of peek into delivery, kind of peek into HR, because that's what operations is all about. We kept referencing Grant's presentation, and my favorite part of his presentation when he was like, yeah, and operations, whatever that even means. So yay, I'm here to clear up whatever that means. So thank you, Grant, for leaving that space for me. I appreciate it. And here is the laundry list of things that the team and I do that this is why operations is so confusing on what it is, right? Because it is so many different things, so many areas of the business. Really, the company, the agency that I started, and I was in denial that I even was an agency for a while, but now I realize that it fully is. So it started really naturally and organically. I have a background in hospitality and finance. I started at my first e-commerce agency in 2019, and we grew from 50 to 300 people. And I was in the finance space, and I was so sick and tired of analyzing the P&L every month and nothing actually getting done about it. So I broke the wall from finances and went into operations to say, okay, how can I do something about our largest area on the P&L, our cost of goods sold, right? And that didn't immediately mean chopping everyone off and firing them. Sometimes it does mean layoffs, and that sucks, but it's really more about optimizing our team members, right? And now with AI and automations, we have an opportunity to do that more now than ever, right? But really caring about the team members, asking them what their skill sets are, understanding what they would like to learn, and really being able to make sure that we are billing for them as much as possible, but that we're maximizing the time that we are paying for them to work for us, right? And whether that's part-time or full-time, everyone's time matters, right? And we want to make sure that people are challenged and growing. So that was the people side of it, but really understanding as well, there's a lot of handoffs in our agencies, right? Between sales to delivery, delivery back to sales, but not one person owns those areas. And so that's where I feel that operations can really come in and just be the one that can own all the areas where no one's willing to put their hand up. As well as when you're a smaller agency, you oftentimes don't have the budget or the need for a separate person for legal. Even if you're a large agency, no one wants a full-time lawyer there. And even when you do call your lawyer, he or she is billing you for every second that they're thinking about your time, as we should be with our clients, but their time is like double ours. So it gets quite expensive. Having a full-time HR person, really there's not much of a need there at first. And so as the founder, you find yourselves doing that, right? You're handling all those different areas. You're even handling capacity planning and resource management at first, and handling recruiting and hiring as well, right? And so an operations person can come in and handle all those areas for you. I went to a startup after that first agency, and that agency randomly was a part of EAG, and I met Rachel, and I started doing workshops for the agencies and found that a lot of them, the US has more operations managers, more now than I've seen in other countries, or more now than before. But it wasn't a common role, right? And maybe we had a project manager. A lot of people coming to my workshops were project managers or account managers, and they would only have time to do operations on Fridays, kind of thing, right? Well, what that means is it's not actually ever getting done, because the client priorities don't just magically go away on a Friday. It's actually the only day that you can get caught up for yourself. So that's when we saw the role starting to make more traction, and now I see a lot more agencies with a true dedicated operations person. Yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about recruiting services as well, but we work with agencies all across the globe, from 8 team members to AD team members, all e-commerce services, mostly Shopify and Klaviyo, but also paid media, Amazon agencies, we did our first one this year, SEO agencies, you name it. All across the globe, all different languages, we convert financial statements in, and it's a lot of fun. So we either do operations for you or with you. We can do finances for you and with you as well, but I won't do bookkeeping for the UK because you guys have some crazy tax laws that I'm not privy to. So yeah, and then recruiting. So a lot of times the agencies would have me look over the recruiting agreements or help with hiring decisions, and I got so sick and tired of recruiters not actually knowing what it is that we're hiring for in the agency space, but sending us candidates anyways, and then slapping a 20% fee on it. So I decided we could do this for cheaper and actually care and know about what the agencies are hiring for, and have our team of people who have worked in agencies help find the talent. So we've launched that this year. If you could think about operations this way, right? Like, you could have a house and you could not know that things are wrong with that house and you buy it anyways. And then you start doing additions on it. You start adding cabinets. You start adding, I don't know, an automatic door and AI and automations, right? Think about it that way. So you could have an agency, you could start adding a bunch of different services to it. You could start building an AI layer. You could start doing AI and automations. But at the end of the day, if the foundation of the agency isn't strong, it's gonna break. And you're gonna end up spending a lot of money to fix that foundation, and it doesn't matter all the fancy things that you have built because your core is broken, right? And what's the core? The core is your margins. The core is your culture, right? The core is the data that's feeding all the information. So you could have all of your SOPs plugged into an AI layer, but if those SOPs are 3 years outdated and no one is responsible for updating them, then they're shit. So an operations person, they are really responsible for making sure that all of those things are up to date, right? And that they're talking to everyone in the agency to make sure that what you're doing makes sense what you're doing, right? And that we're all talking to the client in the same way, which it doesn't matter if you have one service or you have 5 different services, but better be damn sure that if you're offering 2 different services for your agencies, that there's one story being told to the client, right? And there's one system. So even the shift in program managers and strategists really help that, versus having, different owners across different services talking to your clients. But so in the same way, in the back of house for your agency, you need to have one team member or one team of operations who know the story behind what's going on in all the different departments of your agency, right? These are different core agency metrics that I like to track with agencies all across the globe, no matter what services. These numbers, take them with a grain of salt. Some years we are setting these KPIs as a 1 year or a 1 quarter target that we're tracking towards, and sometimes it's gonna take us 5 years, and we've set a 5-year plan to get towards these goals, right? But we need to start somewhere. For utilization reporting, utilization is understanding of a person's time that they have spent retroactively, how much of it was spent on billable client work, and also, and more equally as importantly, how much time was spent of the time that we paid them for, right? Or of the time that they were available to work for us for, and how are we optimizing that? So those are agency averages across, all your cost of goods sold service team members. I'll jump into more metrics per role, depending on what kind of agency you have a little bit later on. For capacity planning and resource planning, this is planning time proactively for time that hasn't been logged yet, time that hasn't been spent, which is equally as important to understand in the future, what is everyone working on? If we're gonna make transitions to the team, let people go, bring new people on, how are we gonna balance that workload and manage those things, which is more than just task workload planning in a project management system. It's not something that a project manager should own just for the projects they manage. It really takes an operations person that sits on top and can see for all of the resources in the agency, what's the plan and what are they working on, right? And not just our billable resources. For delivery margin, contribution margin, gross profit margin, whatever you want to call this, we strive for 70 to 75%. For some of my US agencies, we're striving for 60%, or for some agencies that only utilize full-time resources, that 70% is quite hard to get to. But that is a goal. That's a goal for companies in general, not just e-commerce agencies. So if you're a SaaS tool here as well, your company's probably tracking the same metric. So for the P&L tracking, the 50-30-20 rule, I love this. This could be a great company-wide KPI that you set, and it could be, again, like a 5-year plan that we want to make sure that our costs of goods sold are no more than 50% of our income, that our overhead expenses are no more than 30% of our income, which leaves 20% for net profitability Easier said than done. When you're a smaller agency, it is a little bit easier because you have less overhead. You probably don't have legal issues yet, or right, things that you're having to deal with on the overhead side that just come as the agency scales. So, 15 to 20% I would consider healthy there. Don't come to my roundtable and tell me that you have a 50% net profit margin, because I'm just going to say that you're not investing in your agency wisely, right? Or you're more like a freelancer, not a true agency. So, 20%, good place to be, healthy place to be, and if this talk can help you out on your personal finances, that's a good place to be as well in your life. So yeah, and if you're not there, like that's totally fine. Maybe for next year, you strive to get a little bit better and a little bit better, right? But these are kind of the North Star metrics that we try to track to. And how we track those is by two different frameworks. I have whole conversations and topics around these two different things, KPIs and OKRs. So our KPIs, key performance indicators, we know them most commonly, right? Those are our numerical goals that we're trying to achieve, but equally as important are our objectives and key results. How are we gonna get to those numbers? What activities are we gonna do to reach those numbers? Who's gonna own them, right? And when are we gonna do them? We can't just say, yeah, AI and automations, let's adopt it in the agency. Well, what small projects and steps are we gonna do over the next 30, 60, 90 days to achieve these little nuggets one thing at a time, right? And breaking those down. An operations person is great to really set these for the agency because they have a holistic view of what's all the departments, what are they all working on, and how can we make sure that we're working on things in parallel with one another, right? We don't want the sales team to put out new services and pricing if delivery's restructuring how they're delivering the work, right? Because obviously if they're restructuring how they're gonna deliver the work, that's going to affect the time that it's going to take, and we can't set pricing if we don't know the profit margin. Yes, salespeople, founders, you need to know what's the expected profit margin before you just tell a client that that price works. Okay, so operations, our goal is to remove silos, remove bottlenecks, be less founder dependent, be able to scale, be able to answer the question, when are we ready to hire? AI and automations help us with those things as well, right? They give us visibility into the data, they give us visibility into what's going on in the agency, so they pair really nicely. We build, using AI, financial forecasts and capacity planners with our agencies. We connect them with, I'll do a little bit of a demo later, but we use Supabase, we have individual logins for team members, and we're able to connect them to the CRM system, to the financial, to the accounting software, and we just launched for one of our agencies where each of the managers of the different departments have access to their own P&L, which is so nice. It's not just the founder that has eyes on the P&L and what's going on, but every leader is responsible for their own P&L now, and they have the little piece of their puzzle, and they really have that owner mindset now, right? They have visibility into what's going on, and so, we were talking about yesterday, like, you may have this crazy thing that you've built using AI, but no one has access to it, and if they do, they have no idea how to use it. And so that's where we can come in and really help on the operations and finance side, and really empower leaders to do something with the time log data that we have, to do something with the KPIs, and really feel like they can do something before the KPIs get reported on, right? And ensure that they feel like the KPIs are set in a way where they can just be empowered to make a difference and not just saying like, oh, you didn't hit your goal and it's a shocker to you at the end of a quarter. These are some things I do see when agencies are doing operations, and whether it's someone that owns, is in that seat full-time or not. Maybe they're doing some sort of capacity planning, but it's not in a way where we have it set up, but no one is actively changing the numbers as we learn about, it's not that we set estimates for a project at the start of the build and then everything goes according to plan. I've never seen that happen. Even if we have 50 hours in a retainer each month, it's not that we're able to divide those hours across 4 weeks and everyone just magically knows to work those over time, right? It's not that simple. And so making sure that someone is actively and constantly updating that, or you have automations to update that, but it shouldn't just be like, oh, because this was the time worked, that's now the budget moving forward. It should be that, no, what is the budget in order to keep us profitable, right? And that should be our budget moving forward. And so your project managers and account managers or strategists aren't finance people. I mean, if they are, that's amazing. I'd love to meet them. But typically they aren't, and that's where an operations person can really help, coach them and guide them and ensure that they have the bigger picture for the agency and that they're responsible for protecting the margin. I talked a little bit about this as well. Like, we have SOPs, maybe they're stored in AI, but they haven't been updated in some time. So now you have new team members come on board, and we're like, yeah, we've built this, brain, AI brain, and everything you need is in there. We're not going to spend time onboarding you. Any questions you have, just go here. So they go here, but all the information is outdated. So now we're like, hey, you didn't do this right. And it's like, well, I went to the SOP that we had, but it's 4 years outdated, right? And so then your new people are already off to a bad foot. Maybe they have good ideas, but who is taking all those in and then updating that AI brain? It takes someone in operations to do those kinds of things. Okay, resource planning is a huge part of what we do in the operations space because, again, I think it really goes into our bottom line, and we have the most control. We don't always have the control over our revenue even, right? We're at the mercy of what clients come in. Yes, we can contribute and pour into our marketing efforts, but we have angry clients. We're quick to give a refund, quick to give a discount, things like that. We can do a lot more in our cost of goods sold and what's going on with our team members at all times. So I know that our project management systems do an okay job at workload planning and team member planning. Those, again, are only as good as the estimates and the due dates that we're putting on all of those tickets, right? And how accurate are those and how often are those getting updated? I don't know. It still is going to take a human to do that for now, I believe. And so also, if we are planning out pipeline deals to come in, you don't really want to muddy up your project management system with deals that haven't happened yet. I feel like it's bad juju for the deals. But also, if you start saying, all right, I'm going to add these deals to our project management system, and I'm going to start assigning people to see what it does to their workload, you're going to get a ton of Slack messages from people saying, why am I assigned to this? I know nothing about this. I didn't get the sales to delivery handoff meeting yet. And it's like, okay, well, hold on a second. They didn't even sign yet. I was just trying to understand who could work on this, in a month from now, right? And so having a safe space where you can make those strategic changes for your resources outside of your project management system is what a resource planner can do for you. And also, if you're making changes in the agency, I have one agency where we've totally gotten rid of the project manager role, and we've now moved all of the strategists, they're now doing the project management along with AI is taking care of the rest of that for them, right? And so as we're making those changes and transitions, maybe we're not ready to notify them yet, and project managers that we're going to dissolve their role, we don't really want them to be notified, right, that we're going to remove those allocations. And so doing that in sort of a leadership safe layer in a safe space where we can kind of plan out 30, 60, 90 days ahead or even through the end of the year is what this tool is used for. We connect the CRM systems in there, and we also connect as well like future hires. So future hire planning, and we also connect our HR platform. So wherever the team is tracking their time off, we can plug those in as well and kind of plan ahead for people's time off. Shocking concept, I know. So utilization reporting, we can have really clean time logs. We can have a really automated way of logging time. We can have all the fancy plugins, but what are we actually doing with the time logs, and are we actually analyzing on them, right? I feel like some agencies are spending a lot of time tracking time, and then maybe they're putting together a utilization report. By the time they put together the report, they're not actually analyzing on it, and if they are they actually making changes with the team for the months ahead to get them to be more billable, to optimize for their downtime, right? Or optimize for their non-client work that's non-billable time, right? Are we planning for that ahead of time? I mean, maybe some of you guys are doing that, but it's a lot easier to just, it's not the priority all the time, right? The priority is the fixation on the client work, the billable work, the fire that's in front of you, instead of worrying about what can we do ahead of time to improve our billable resources, right? And get their rates up. And that's what operations focuses on here. And with these tools, with AI and automations, we're able to do that a lot easier. These dashboards can be automated for you guys. And we've even built like COO analysis tools or CFO analysis tools where we can feed it an analysis that we like to see. And then moving forward, your head of client delivery can go in at all times and understand, okay, just for my designers, what was their utilization rates, billable and overall last month? And what do you recommend for future months? You may not have the best recommendations yet for future months. AI doesn't have the context of e-commerce agency delivery yet and how we service things, but it can give team members more of an analysis than they would ever be able to do on their own. I got this question a lot at the start of the year, a lot in the US, with AI and automations, like how does that impact or change the targets that we're setting? And it doesn't. If we have a team member's availability, and Amira actually built a really cool way to take someone's capacity and, let's say they start with 40 hours, you automatically subtract 5 for breaks, walking the dog, eating lunch. We work post-COVID, it's gonna happen. And so then you're left with 35 hours, and then she kind of breaks down what are all the internal activities that someone does in their week, meaning internal meetings, coaching other team members, right? And it's different for every person in the agency. So I would recommend we have a template for this, you can ask her for it, and it's been a really cool activity for team members to go through their departments and say, okay, for every human on my team, how do I split up their time? After you go through all the internal activities, we can understand what client work is even left for them at the end of that, right? So you divide that by the 40 hours you started with, and that's how you get their billable utilization target. And if you notice that that's low, it can be a great way to audit the internal time that your team is spending in a week. For these calls, can they be bi-weekly? Can they be a Slack bot that gets sent out and everyone posts their update instead, right? How can we kind of cut down on those things that seem silly or redundant or without a clear purpose? Not to say all internal calls don't have a clear purpose, but are we excessive with them, right? Sometimes the bigger we get, the more that we kind of feel the need to meet because we don't have our hands on everything that's going on. And so we feel the need to meet more and more, and that's just time that's, not being used for productive things sometimes. So it's a good exercise, good activity to do that. But that with the AI and automations, like if your developer is leveraging tools, their billable target is still the same. They're just able to do more in that time, right? They're able to do more in those 30 hours that they have left for client work because they're leveraging a friend of AI and automations to help them with their dev work. So it doesn't change that we want someone to be utilized for 35 hours of their week, right? That still stays the same. So just to break down, you guys will have a picture of this. I have way more different roles. And based on the country you're in as well, I know this is a little bit different, but I just kind of put some out here for design and dev, and for my retention agencies, you have there's 100 different ways to call an account manager, and maybe that's one person that's doing a marketing, account manager, and strategist all in one, so you can do the math there, and you can kind of see the billable utilization targets that we have set. So this is a prompt for something that I'm going to demo briefly, and this prompt can walk you through setting up your own utilization report and your capacity planner using Lovable. Lovable was going to be a sponsor of the event, but it's okay, we'll still give them a shout out here. They've been a really helpful tool in making things really simplified for us to be able to build things like this. Obviously, this prompt may need some tender love and care for you, but we updated it right before this event as well, so it should work pretty nicely. Lovable is pretty cost efficient to get this going. You would only need a handful of credits, maybe, I don't know, $50 max to get this done. So you can build it, plug in your team members, plug in your projects, sync your time logs manually. Obviously, setting up an automation is not in the prompt, but we're here to help you with that, or Grant. So yeah, you could set those things up. You could plug in like the last H1 of time logs and kind of understand like, where is my team at? I'm curious to kind of audit and start tracking this moving forward. So this is just an example of what the prompt can build for you. For my agencies, that we've built this for. It kind of is more of an OS that we've built, and it has more pieces to it. Some of them have time trackers within them. Some of them have financial forecasts within them. This piece is just showing you a capacity planner and a utilization report. And you can see here we can add team members. We can also sync them automatically from your project management system, but we can kind of set, okay, who's my team member? What role do they have? How many hours are they available? And then we also plug in all of the projects that they're assigned to, both client activity and internal activity that they're assigned to, right? If you have a technical architect, or it's you, and you're constantly getting pulled into sales meetings, right? Then let's plan for that time, at least 5 hours a week, right? If you have a designer that's being pulled into updating sales assets or doing marketing for the agency, treat that like a project and plan for that time just as you would for the client billable time that they are working, right? If you don't log time, then please come see me. But if you log time and you don't really have budgets for your retainers, you don't sell by hours, that's all fine, but everything should map back to hours. So you can take your time logs and kind of, you could plug those into this tool as a first base to plan for someone's time. I would run a profitability report first to say, hey, based on the revenue that we're charging each month and the time that they're spending multiplied by their billable rate to you, are we profitable? If you're profitable, then yeah, sure, plug in the time that they've spent, maybe average it out over the last 3 months. If you're not profitable, still plug in the time, but it's worth a larger conversation on, are we over-servicing? Do we need to update the prices? This is where finance and operations bleed together. But you can see here, we have a weekly schedule where we have now all the team members, all of their time that they're logged to or that they're planned for, and it kind of rolls up into this view. You can drill down, you can summarize by role and drill down by person. So if you have different team leads and you want to understand what they're working on, or they just want to look at the team that they're managing, they can kind of come in here and see at all times what's going on. The other half of it is so this is all time that hasn't been spent yet. The other part of this, and if you do the prompt, it will build out both pieces for you, is the utilization report. So this is proactive, time that hasn't been spent yet. You can plug in your deals from your CRM manually or automatically. If you are gonna plug in deals from the CRM, by the way, I like to do verbal confirmation and up. Anything less than that is probably not worth doing resource planning for yet. Don't get too excited. Even if it's a cool logo, I wouldn't add it too soon. It's just kind of wasting your time. For the resource planning in here, or utilization reporting, that is retroactively based on time spent. So you would upload your time logs. You may have to cleanse that data before you upload them, and there's tips in the prompt on how to do that. And once you're in there, you'll be able to see a different dashboard on billable utilization metrics, overall utilization metrics for every person, every role, and then company-wide, and taking those averages. I share with you why we launched Tragas Recruiting, but we have been doing recruiting for agencies all across the globe. We just recently placed a head of retention, a head of revenue, a lifecycle marketing manager, and a designer. So all different roles we are helping to find for you all. So if you need any support in that, you can reach out to me or anything with your finance and operations.